So, what are we going to be looking at today in our LinkedIn webinar? Well, we'll be covering a few different things. Hopefully, by the end of today, you'll be able to list the different uses of LinkedIn. You'll be able to identify the features of a good profile and how to actually implement those. You'll be able to explain how to use the groups and the advanced search function to find people, and also explain where to find jobs listed on LinkedIn. So we've got quite a lot of different stuff that we're covering today, and there's a lot of online videos that LinkedIn have made where you can go over all of this information and get more. So if you just Google LinkedIn Learn, you'll be able to find lots of information that they've made in short video tutorials. So hopefully this will just give you the top level information. You can go away, get more and practice. So a few questions for you to see where you're at with LinkedIn. So again, using the hand icon, please could you raise your hand if you have a LinkedIn profile? So just pop your hand up now. So I can see a few hands going up. Yeah. Okay, so we've probably got, I would say, two-thirds of people have got a LinkedIn profile at the moment. Okay, now raise your hand if you have, so put your hands down, raise your hand, your virtual hand, if you have more than 50 connections on your LinkedIn profile. So I know you may not know exactly, but take a guess. If you think you have more than 50 connections, raise your hand. Okay, so just scrolling down to see some hands there. All right, so a lot less. So more people have a profile, less people have 50 connections. Now, hands down. Third question, could you raise your hand if you've logged in more than once in the last week? Just have a look at the hands going up. Okay, so on that one, we've got slightly less people than those who have 50 connections, probably about 10 people out of 40, so about a quarter. Hands down. The fourth question, could you raise your hand if you regularly use the job or people search function? So I'm just going to take a look again. Right, so that's interesting. That's probably about the same amount of people as those who logged in more than once in the last week. It may be the same people. I'm not keeping a track of that. And finally, hands down and then raise your hand if you are a group member. So there's lots of groups on LinkedIn, which is something I'll be going over with you later. So raise your hand if you're a group member. Okay, so reasonable, probably about a quarter again. So hopefully those asking you those questions has maybe just helped you to reflect on what your usage of LinkedIn is. But I think it also shows something that's very common, and that is that lots of us know that LinkedIn is a great thing to be on. We know we should be using it, but actually, for whatever reason, we don't utilize it as much as we could. So lots of us have a profile, a lot fewer actually actively use it. So what I'm hoping is that as a result of today's webinar, if I asked you the same questions in a week or two, there'd be many more people who would feel like they've been able to make lots of connections because you know how to do that, have logged in regularly because you know what the value of it is, know how to use the job and people search function, so you're using that, and are members of groups. So these are all the different things LinkedIn can do for you. But going back to that question, what is LinkedIn? I think sometimes we don't utilize it as much as we could because it's hard to really understand, well, what is LinkedIn all about? What's it really making it unique from different social networks? So these are some of the different things that LinkedIn can do for you. It can enable you to gather career path information. So that's really helpful if you know where you want to get to, but not how to get there. It can give you some news in a sector. So often if you go to interview, they'll ask you questions about what's currently the challenges facing the sector, or maybe how the sector is developing at the moment, or something that's been in the news recently, and LinkedIn can give you that information. It also is a great place to make new contact, and that allows you to both gather more career path information because you can observe different people's career paths, but also there's a possibility of maybe getting a referral from someone that you can build a relationship with for a job. Also, it gives you job opportunities, so there's advertised opportunities, and it's a place where you can be headhunted based on your profile, and it advertises events and has groups where you can, sort of virtual events essentially, where you can meet other people. So lots of different ways that you can use it. And here's a bit of a overview of how it's different from other social media. I borrowed this example from the LinkedIn team themselves, and I really like it because I think it describes how LinkedIn is unique. So on Twitter, what does Twitter do? Using the example of donuts, Twitter says to the world, I'm eating a donut. Facebook, you like things. So on Facebook, you can tell the world that you like donuts. Instagram, it's all about photographs. So here's a photo of my donut. On YouTube, it's videos. So here's a video of me eating a donut. Pinterest, it's where you pin up useful and interesting things that you found. So you'd pin up, here's a donut recipe. And Spotify, it's music. So it's, I'm listening to donuts. So all these different social media channels do these different things. What about LinkedIn? LinkedIn is different. LinkedIn with donuts, you could say, my skills include donut eating. I'm qualified in donut making. I work in the donut industry. I'm interested in the future of donuts. I'm connected to donut experts, and here's a video or a photo or a recipe for donuts. So that's just a little picture of how LinkedIn is unique. It really focuses in on the professional side of you. Where do you work? What are your interests? What are your qualifications? What can you do? Who is your network? And then it also gives you that functionality to post videos, photos up and documents, SlideShare up on your profile. So if that's what it can do, really the profile is the key where you can do this. So this slide here in front of you all really translates onto your personal profile. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go onto LinkedIn itself and have a look at how you can build up a good profile. Okay, so here we go. This is my profile, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how to build a profile based on my profile. So if it's helpful for you, grab LinkedIn, put your own profile up there, or feel free to just watch my screen. So I'm going to just work through one by one some of the different things that you'd like to focus on. And as I say, this is top level. There's a lot more that you could do with this. So I think the first thing, photograph. It's a photograph of me, and people just tend to remember those who they've got a visual image for. If you really are serious about making LinkedIn work for you, then the more that you can give someone a sense that they're establishing a personal connection with you, whether that's a recruiter or someone that you're wanting to contact for the first time, the better. And I think photographs help to really put reality to our name and put a personality to us. So do use something that looks professional. You can just get a friend to take it if you want to, but this isn't about looking cute or looking like you go on interesting holidays. It's about presenting a professional image. So shirt, tie, dress, smiley picture, and a pretty straightforward background. So that's the first thing, put a photo on. And then you've got your headline. This is your headline. So this is my name, and underneath the headline. So this is the text which essentially says what you do. Now, recruiters will use keywords to search for what they need. And so it's really important that you don't just put a job title. Now, you might be currently an intern, and your intern may not describe very well what you actually do or some of your skills. So I could have put here Deputy Head of Careers and Enterprise, but actually I wanted to give a bit more description, Management of Career Services, because if I was looking to job change, which I'm not, but if I was looking for job change, I would want a recruiter to type in management. Now, deputy head doesn't actually have that keyword in it. So don't just stick in a job title here. Actually use this as a way to describe the value that you could bring to someone recruiting you. Think about what your ideal employer would need in a candidate. What skills and knowledge and experience can you write in a headline to show what you have? Now, many of you will be current students, or at least coming to the end of a postgraduate if you're postgrads. If you are a current student or you're a graduate but you're not yet in work, then here, this is where you might want to say what you've studied. So recent graduate of, or current student of, or master student of, put your subject in there so it gives people a bit of context, and then say, again, what skills or experience you could bring. So seeking job in or seeking career in, blah, 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 blah. So say both what you're doing now, what you're seeking a career in, and if you can, get some key skills words in there. Now, you'll hear me talk about keywords a lot. A keyword is just essentially a word which if you are doing a search on LinkedIn for someone, that you would type into here. So let's take an example that we all know, a teacher, a lecturer, university lecturer. If I was looking for university lecturers on LinkedIn, I would think, okay, what can a lecturer do? They need to be able to lecture, to teach, to research. 3 keywords. So 3 things they need to be able to do. They need to be able to present. I want them to probably have written some papers, talked at conferences. So I'm essentially thinking, what does this person, what skills and experiences should this person have? And I'm using those to type in here to search for that person. And those words are called a keyword. So it's nothing technical. It's just a word that someone would use to search to find you. So think about what a recruiter, think about the way that they'd write a job advert, the skills and experiences they've put in, and then make sure that those things are in your profile. There's lots of different places it can go into, but this headline here is an important place where you get some of your, maybe your top 2 or 3 keywords which say what you can do or what you're looking to do if you're a current student. Okay, so that's your headline. And LinkedIn's nice. You can just browse different people's headlines and see what they've got to get ideas. Now this is the next bit. So this is your URL. So you can customize your URL here. And what that does is it just allows you to have something that's more specific to you. So you can see here, I've got Sharma Abbey, and I clicked on that. I hope you saw that. I just clicked on that little button to the right hand side, and then here it allows me to customize my URL. So yours will probably come up with a load of numbers and sort of your name in there somewhere. So if you click on that little round cog next to the URL, you'll get to this page, and then on the right hand side here you can see it's got an option to customize it. You would just click on this little pen icon, and then that would allow you to put your name in. I've put Sharma Abbey because Abby Sharma was taken, but logically, if you can, then put in your full name in the right order. Okay, I'm just going to go back to my edit profile. Okay, so then we come down to the summary. And the summary is pretty much like your elevator pitch. So this is the place to express your aspirations and experience to date. You want to keep it short and again think about keywords. So what are the things that you have done? And just think about top line. So if you've done a couple of internships, you don't need to explain the full detail of what was included in the internships. That would come down under your experience. You just want to say what employer they were with, what the title of the internship was, and then highlight, again, a couple of key skills. So keep using keywords, a couple of the important things that you did or the skills that you gained. So if we're thinking about IT, you might want to say that you did an internship and you use certain programming languages. If you think about marketing, you might want to talk about writing copy. If you're thinking about finance, you might want to talk about, again, any IT that you used within that and what specifically you were doing. Were you managing people's assets? Were you doing things in corporate finance? So think about if you had 30 seconds in a lift with someone and you said, bam, 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 these are the 3 or 4 things that I can bring to you and to your company, and this is the area that I want to get into, what would you say? And that's what goes in your summary. You can see underneath that you can then add media. So I've got a couple of videos. Maybe as part of your university studies, you've got some videos. Maybe you've got some PowerPoint presentations that you've done as part of a dissertation. This is your chance to essentially showcase a little bit more about who you are and what you can bring by actually showing someone your real work. I think the nice thing about this is it's what a CV doesn't do. So on a CV, you can only say facts about yourself, but actually on LinkedIn, you can add real material that you've produced, so it demonstrates the quality that you've got. Okay, now if anyone's got any questions at any point through this, please do just type your questions into your question box as I'm running through. With your experience, what you then do is you list your experience. Some people ask me, should I copy and paste from my CV? You can, but remember that, again, LinkedIn is all about putting the right words in that will mean that people, if they search for you, will find your profile. So you might be using slightly different language on your CV. So I'd recommend typing it in from scratch. So you list here anything that you've done. Now, another question I often get is, I've done loads of part-time jobs, shall I put them up? You don't need to put everything on your LinkedIn profile. The important thing is to put in relevant experience that you've got, internships, volunteering work. Doesn't matter what country they're in, that's relevant. Now, if you don't have any of that, but you have done some part-time work, waitering, bar work, working in the student union, then do put that on and highlight the transferable skills that you've got from it. So if you can show that you were a team worker or you were using organisational leadership, then that's still really valuable. And that's very much the case certainly in the UK, Europe and the US. It's not so much the case in Asia. So they're looking much more for relevant work experience. So this is your experience. Now, as you can then see, it says recommendations. Now, what LinkedIn allows you to do is not to say what you've done, but also to have somebody else comment on what you've done. And recommendations is a great way for you to essentially be adding references, but from someone who's a peer. So the great thing about the recommendations is that you can get people to comment on particular group assignments that you've done or a particular job, so you can choose what you want people to recommend you on. So let's just go down to the bottom. This shows you how to be recommended. So if you scroll all the way down, you can ask to be recommended. So here I'm just clicking ask to be recommended, and then what it does is it picks the experiences I've had. So for you guys, if you haven't had any work, it would ask whether you want to be recommended as a student, and that's where you might pick somebody who could comment on you as a group leader or a co-worker in a group assignment. And then it's also picked my jobs. So if you have done any internships, it would come up there. So that's another reason it's good to put experiences on there, because it will then give you the facility to get recommended for them. So if I click here, I want to be recommended for that, I can then type in who I want to recommend me. So let's say I want, trying to think who's on LinkedIn, who I know, Tracy Basoli to recommend me. So I then say what my relationship is. So I worked with Tracy in the same group. What's her position at the time? Careers advisor for researchers. Write your message. So this is where I suggest that you tailor it. LinkedIn, as you can see, populates this section automatically. If you're asking someone to recommend you, you're asking them to do you a favor. So I think it's just really polite and encourages them to respond to you if you show that you've taken the time to actually think about what your message asking them to recommend you. So maybe change the subject title, saying, could you recommend me for working as, or request for recommendation, or, you know, asking you a favor, could you recommend me? So think about how you change your subject line. And then here, this bit in the content, this is your chance to explain to them what you'd like them to recommend you for. It might be that you're going for jobs in a particular area, so you can actually coach your recommendee on what you'd like them to comment on. If all the jobs you're going for are some kind of graduate management position, then you might want them to comment specifically on how you lead and how you manage. Equally, if you're looking at, again, going to technical programming things, you might want someone to comment particularly around not just how you work with them and how responsible you are, but actually your technical skills. So think about whether there's any pointers you can give to someone about what you'd like them to recommend you for, or you can leave it general if you want to. Okay, now I've had a couple of questions, so I'm just going to have a look at those questions now. All right, so let's just go back. Okay, what name should I use on LinkedIn? What should you use? It's totally up to you. If you want, think about what you'd want a recruiter to call you, and then put the same on your CV and on LinkedIn, I would suggest, so that people don't get confused about who you are. So just be consistent. I really don't think it matters. Neither your CV nor LinkedIn is something which is being checked with your passport. So you can use the name that you want to, formal or informal, but just make it consistent. Okay, another question. I'm an undergraduate student at the moment. Should we write the subjects and grades achieved at A-levels or just the subjects? If you're happy to put your grades on, then it's always a good thing to show if you've got good grades. Particularly if you're going to law, they're really interested in grades. If you have got grades that you're not that happy with, then just put the subjects on. Again, there's no one right rule here. I think the more information you can give, the more helpful it is, but you want to put on information that works to your advantage, and not everybody is bothered about the grades that you get at A-level. Okay, got another one. I'm recently graduated doing my MSc. I'm interested in some research work. How do I modify to such experiences knowing that I've been mostly doing clinical work? Okay, great question. So essentially this is saying I'm interested in one area of work. So for this individual, it's research, but actually my experience is in another area of work. And that might be the same for lots of you. I think the answer for that is the same as the answer for the CV, is you you spend as much space as possible on things where you have done relevant work. So if for this individual, she's interested in research, I would here really bulk up the dissertation that you're doing in your MSc, put lots of information about that on there. For coursework that you've done, again, go into detail on that. If you've done any presentation at conferences or events as part of your MSc, put that on there. So this is part of the job transition. It's just focusing more and probably using, if you're transitioning and you've done a postgraduate, in order to transition, focus more on the postgraduate and the practical things that you've done, extracurricular things you've done around it that relate to your postgraduate, groups, assignments, coursework, any additional training. So spend more on your education and less on your work experience. Can LinkedIn use to promote a certain group of graduates in a particular field, such as LinkedIn for disaster management researcher? I'm not sure I fully understand that question. Maybe the person who posted that can repost that and just explain a bit more what you mean. There are recruiters who'll be looking for graduates in a certain area, if that's what you mean. You can also search for jobs in a certain area, and you can join groups in that area. So that's how you can use LinkedIn to focus on a job search in a particular field. Okay, if you've got lots of experience, how detailed should your experience section be? These are great questions. If you've got loads of experience, then again, think about it like a CV, in the sense that your CV can only be two sides, so you select the most relevant experience. I would do the same for LinkedIn. Look out of everything you've done, what are the most relevant things that you've done, and put those down. I do not have legal work experience and looking for legal jobs. How do I mold my skills experience to obtain it through the LinkedIn? Hopefully I've answered that through really focusing on your LLM. So think about in your headline, putting that you're current LLM student with specialism in X area looking for legal work. And in your summary, really focusing on the LLM and the experience you've got for LLM. Someone else has asked how they use it to search for internships or learning opportunities. I will come on to that. So we'll get to that. Okay. Now I'm just clicking into this section here. So it's just under your personal contact details. You can see there's lots of sections here. Quite a few questions I got just now were, I'm a current student, so given that I haven't had lots of experience in the area I wanted to get into, how do I make my profile really shout about that area? These are the sections here which allow you to do that. So you can talk about your courses at university, any awards that you've got from university, any volunteering you've done, organisations, so that really means student societies, it's an Americanism. Volunteering experience, again, you might have done that through your university. Languages. Patents, any PhDs out there might want to put that. Test scores, so someone was asking, do you put your grades in? This is an opportunity where you can shout about really good grades that you've got in your midterms, not just your final end grade. Projects, so that's projects within your degree that you can talk about. You may not have, for example, had engineering work experience, but you have done a lot of practical projects. Publications, so anyone on a master's or PhD may have published something. And then this is slightly different, but advice for contacting, so it's saying what kinds of things people can contact you for, and that's just allowing you to write a post which will then appear in a newsfeed. But I really wanted to focus in here on all these things which allow you to really add colour and detail to your university experience. So I think spend some time after today going in and exploring these areas, and what they'll do is they'll just really allow you to say what you've done that's outside of professional experience, but which demonstrates that you have got lots that you can bring from your degree experience to the area that you're going to work in. So you see here, it's just add organisation. I'd put that, so I might put Queen Mary Investment Fund, position held, treasurer, and then I could fill in additional notes. Yes, if you contribute to blogs, you can put those for links under publications. That is correct. All right, so just scrolling up a little bit, we've got that's experience, and then we've got skills and endorsements. So these are examples of keywords. And these are things which hopefully will be in your summary already, but other people can endorse me for them. So these are things that I say I think I've got. So I would add a skill saying I think I can do this. And then LinkedIn invites people to endorse me for that. And it pops up at the top when you log in, right at the top of your profile here. You can see someone's endorsed me, and it would come up to me saying, would you like, when I log in, would you like to endorse your contacts? And that'll give me a list of contacts and a list of things I could endorse them for. So this is your chance to say the technical skills and the soft skills that you have got. So you can see here I've got some technical skills, career counselling, that's a technical skill, resume writing, it's a technical skill. I've got soft skills, time management, and people have endorsed me for those. And the more endorsements I get, the more it means that if a recruiter is searching for me, I will pop up in their profile. Okay, I don't know how effective use of LinkedIn. Do you have past students who were headhunted? Yes, I do. I've got a number of students now who said to me, I'm coming for you for a practice interview. They found me via LinkedIn. It's in some sectors more than others. So something like marketing, social media, technology, really active on LinkedIn. Less on LinkedIn are some other things like medicine or academia. So in some areas, yes, people are using LinkedIn a lot, and we have had students who've been found on LinkedIn. Okay. Education, so there you can pop on your current education, any past education, you can see mine there. Additional information, so this is where I can say my interests. You might say, what's the point? What LinkedIn does now is it shows you how you connect with somebody. So it would say what I have in common with them. And that just means that if I'm using LinkedIn to maybe message someone who's working in a company that I'm interested in, I've never met them before, but I want to have a chat with them because I want to apply for that company. The more contact points I have with them, the better. So I send them a message. I say, hi, I see that you're working for such and such company. You're a recent graduate of Queen Mary University. I've just graduated from there. I'm looking to work in your company, and I was wondering if I could have a quick chat. I also see that you did the same degree as me, and you also run a reading group, which I do too. So it seems like we've got some stuff in common. Would love to take you out for a coffee, ask you some questions about your current job before I make my application. So I could message somebody that I've never met before with that kind of message, and interest, putting that on just allows me to make more connection points with someone. LinkedIn really is used for that kind of cold contact messaging. It's really common on LinkedIn, and there's lots of articles online about how to write a good LinkedIn message. So then it's showing my recommendations, and then it's showing the groups that I've joined and the companies that I'm following. So I'm going to move on now from the profile. If you have a 100% complete profile, you are 40 times more likely to receive job or event opportunities. great story here. Somebody that I know had branded herself as a maternal health expert. She had a full profile. Then now the Huffington Post online, some of you might be familiar with that. There's the Huffington Post, which you can buy and open up and leaf through. There's also a Huffington Post online. They were wanting to run a panel of experts talking about particular health issues, maternal health issues. They didn't have a speaker, so they just did a LinkedIn search and they found this individual. She was working in Afghanistan at that time, so as a result, they said to her, great, do you want to be one of our panelists? You can log in from Afghanistan, we're in America, and we're doing a panel show and you can be one of our panelists. That was just from her LinkedIn profile, and she'd linked it to a maternal health blog. So she'd started to, and a Twitter. So she'd started to build up a brand. So when you're using LinkedIn, think as well, could I write a blog about my subject area? Could I tweet and have a professional brand that I built up where I'm tweeting interesting articles? Could I then link my Twitter or my blog to my LinkedIn so that I start to have a profile online which says, look, this is what I am seeking to be an expert in, or I'm already an expert in from my studies and I'm looking to be a professional expert in from a job that I'm seeking to get. So yes, it really does work. Can you ask supervisors for recommendations or just peers? Yep, you can ask supervisors. It doesn't matter who you ask, peers for a group project, supervisor, great, but they obviously have to be on LinkedIn. So you can only ask for recommendations of people who are on LinkedIn. All right, I'm going to move on from the profile. Connections. Once you've got a profile, you want to add connections. So you can go to the connections tab at the top and hit this add connections. Now, I could here use my email. So essentially import contacts from my personal email address onto LinkedIn and do it that way. It might be that I don't want to do it that way. So you can also search for people here and add connections that way. Why might I not want to? I may not want all of my personal contacts to be my contacts on LinkedIn. It might be that I think, well, that was a great friend, but they don't really know me in a professional capacity. And I wouldn't really be happy to write a recommendation for them based on the way that we did a group project together. So I'm not going to put myself in the scenario where I could get asked to recommend them. Equally, you might say I want all of my peers to be my connections on LinkedIn because they know people who know people who know people, and that will help my network. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just about weighing up the pros and cons. So you can either search for people individually and build people up that way, and once you're on, you'll find that people will start inviting you, or you can import your contacts. When you do add a connection, again, they will tell you, there will be a message which says, hi, can you be a connection on LinkedIn? Personalize the message, I would, because that's just another way of showing that you really value the contact and you haven't just sort of hit automatically to connect. Okay, so that's connections. Now groups. Groups are a really good way of building up new connections. So you might say, I'm an international student, I'm in the UK, I'm looking for a job in Dubai. I really want to build my connections in Dubai. So, you know, how do I do that? Groups are your way in. So you can see if you go to interests at the top, scroll down, you can hit groups. And then you can find a group. So here I could say, okay, I'm interested in asset management. Now, I did this as an exercise earlier, and I just when I entered asset management, I got about 1,000 groups, so it's slightly overwhelming. How do you know which one to join? When I did it again and put financial asset management, I only got 200 groups. Obviously still loads, but a lot less. So try and be as specific as you can about the kind of group you'd like to join. And I'll show you the value of a group in a minute. Financial asset management. Okay, search. Okay, so I've got 200 ones. And I might say, okay, I want them to be in English, so tick. And then what this allows me to do is there's 77 open groups and there's 126 closed groups. I would say that typically closed groups tend to be slightly more serious because you have to be approved to be a member. So I'm going to say, well, actually I want members only groups. So I've got 126, and then I can just scroll down and see what seems most relevant to me. So you can see this is really specific. It's a networking group for professionals managing certain product lines. This is a think tank. This is wealth management, looking at ultra high net worth clients. So they've all got their own unique personalities. Now, what you can do if you want to join a group is you hit join like that, and then they approve you. You basically you hit join, and then it would come in and it would appear on your profile when they approve you. Now, I want to ask you, for those of you who've used LinkedIn, what do you think the value of a group is? So we're going to go and have a look at the moment into a group and see what it does. I've obviously already mentioned one thing, but would you like to type into your questions box, what do you think the value of a group is? And while you're thinking about that and typing your answers in, I'm just going to answer a question. Someone said, can I get a video after this session? We will post this recording up on the International Futures blog. So go onto our blog on our website, which is International Futures. You can just Google search International Futures and it'll come up. In fact, Mark is going to type the link to you now for International Futures. So if you go onto our website, you can see the blog and it'll all be up on there. I recommend that for all of you. Someone said, my peers have got nothing to do with my field, but they've asked me to be a contact on LinkedIn. Shall I accept them? As long as you're happy with them being part of your professional network, so you think that you'll be happy to write a recommendation for them if they asked, you're happy for people to know that you know them. Yep, doesn't matter that they're not in your field. Remember that the value of LinkedIn is that it allows you to connect to your friends' connections. So they might be nothing to do with your field, but they might know people who have something to do with your field. So the more connections you have, the better. Okay, the value of joining a group. It helps with networking. Yes, for some people I've tried to connect with, I can't connect with them or message them if I don't have LinkedIn Premium. Do I know any ways around this? Yes, the group. So you've answered my question inadvertently. To build your reputation as an expert on the subject, yep, groups are a great way to do that because you can post in the discussions, post your comments. Yep, you can participate and meet other people in the groups. So thanks for those comments on how you can use a group. Let's go in and look at one here. So I'm going to go and look in this group. All right, so discussions. You can see here the discussion section. Someone said you can build your reputation as an expert. This is where I could post into a discussion. I could ask a question or I could post a comment, and it would allow me to start again building my brand as someone who's interested in this area. And it would help if I'm if I send a message to someone in this group saying I'd love to have a chat with you, if I've been a bit public in the discussion groups and I've been adding valuable information, then it means that they've got a sense of who I am and a sense that I might be someone that is serious about my job search, and so they might be more likely to connect to me. Now, I know that for a lot of you, you might say, but I'm not a working professional, I've got nothing to post. You learn about things all the time on your degree. So think about, what have you read? What articles are you reading, which other people might be interested in? You have something to offer because you're still in the research phase. People who are working often don't have time to research. There's probably a lot of theoretical and scholarly articles you're coming across which relate to this field, which would be really interesting for professionals. So you really do have something to add. Also, for your interviews and job applications, you should be reading professional press, so trade journals. People who want to go into finance, read the FT. People in education, read the Times Higher Education. People in engineering, read the IMechE website. So you should be reading those things already, and if you're not, I recommend you get online and read those sorts of things so you're prepared for interview questions. And it'll be articles from there, which again you could post into the discussion. If you, I said it gives you access to lots of people, and that's something that other people have said when I asked to respond to my question about the value of a group that helps you to network. So one of the ways is if you go to the About tab here, it then allows you to see members. So if you click into members, you could then here search for people who are doing what it is that you want to do, and thus network with them, so meet useful people. So let's imagine I want to work at Marks and Spencer's. So I say, okay, is there anyone here who works at Marks and Spencer? search. Okay, great. There's actually someone who's a graduate recruitment manager at Marks and Spencer. Now, at this point, I could send them a message saying, hi, I'm applying for the graduate recruitment scheme at Marks and Spencer. This is what I currently study at the moment. I've had an internship in retail before, and I'd love to just ask you some questions around the graduate program. Could I ask you a few questions over email or arrange a time to set up a phone call? We're both in the AGR group, and that's how I found you. Thanks very much for your time. I know it's precious. Yours sincerely, Abhi Sharma. So that's an example of a kind of message I could write there. I could just connect with her. Now, remember, she doesn't know who I am. She's a second connection, which means that first connection means it's somebody that I know. Second means it's somebody that I know who knows her. So if I just connect, she doesn't know who I am. There's no point in just connecting for the sake of it. There's only point of connecting to actually make a real relationship. So maybe more useful to send a message rather than connecting, because actually then if she replies and says, yeah, that would be great, I can then connect with her. She knows who I am and we can arrange to have that coffee. Equally, because she's a second connection, that means that we have someone in common. So I could get introduced. So think about on LinkedIn, you're wanting to get in touch with people. They're much more likely to respond to you if you have something common, like you both went to the same university or in the same group. The more common points you have, the more likely they are to respond. Just thinking about basic human psychology. But also, if you get introduced, they're more likely to respond. So anyone who's a second connection, you can get introduced. So if I click here on her, actually go into her profile. I scroll down, then it says, look, these are the things I've got in common with Helen. So I was talking about that earlier, that my interests, for example, I'd put on my profile because it'll tell me if I've got them in common. So I've got 3 things in common here. But also it tells me who the people I've got in common. So there's 2 people who could introduce me, Toby or Jeffrey could introduce me to Helen. So if I wanted to get introduced, I would just hit here, get introduced. Then I would say who I want to introduce. Okay, Toby Young. Toby, can you introduce me to Helen? I would personalize that again. Toby asking an introduction favor for LinkedIn. And then I would be writing a short message here explaining why I want the introduction. So again, people I think are hesitant to introduce you to their content if they don't know what you want. For all they know, you're going to go straight in there and say, can you offer me a job? Which is cringy because it puts someone on the spot and they often can't. So be really, really clear that you want what you're asking for. Are you asking for an information interview where you want to find out some information about that job? Are you asking because you're about to apply for the company and you want to get some more inside information before you write a cover letter? So be really specific about what it is, and as it says here, politely give them a way to say no. Okay, so I'm just going to go back into groups and show you something else that's useful. So in groups, there's no jobs going in this one, but they sometimes advertise jobs in groups, so it's a great way of finding jobs, and it would be posted in here. Okay, so value of a group, you're getting valuable LMI, labour market information from the discussions. You can see jobs posted into the group. You can make new connections with people, and you can browse people's profiles, and that allows you to see the steps that they've taken to get into the job that they're currently in. So you can see here, I can browse her profile and say, okay, how she got there. So that might be really useful for you if you're starting out. You find someone doing a job that you want to do in 5 years, and you can see how somebody got there. Okay, I'm now going to show you an advanced people search function. So this is useful, again, if you are wanting to get into a particular area and you are wanting to connect with somebody, actually send them a message, try and get a conversation going with someone who's working in the company or area that you are interested in working in. One of the ways you can do that is through an advanced people search function. So again, this global job search, think about the fact that maybe you're going and you're moving abroad and you want to build a network going abroad. So let's say I'm interested in gaming. I'm interested in gaming. I'm a current student at Queen Mary. Location, located in or near. Okay, where am I going? I'm going to I'm really interested in moving to Greece. Should we say Greece? Let's say Germany. Let's say I want to go to Germany. So let's see what happens. Search. Okay, there are 3 people in my network who are in Germany who work in gaming. So there's one person who's my first connection. I could message them, explain that I'm looking to move to Germany and to get a job in gaming. Do they have any, could they introduce me to, I already know this person because it's my first connection. So does he know anyone that I could get introduced to, that I could have a conversation with to get some tips on searching for this in Germany? Does he know anyone who's hiring? Could he recommend me how to go about my job search in Germany? Emma. Now, she's my second connection, so I don't know her personally, but somebody, Chloe Pantazzi, does know her. So what I would do here is I would ask to get introduced. So I'd go onto Chloe's profile, like I showed you just now, I'd hit the get introduced button, and I'd say, I'm moving to Germany, I want to start my job search there, would love to chat to you about how I can go about doing this. And there you've got this person here. So she is my third connection here. So on this one, because she's my third connection, I can't get introduced. Now, what I could do is I could see what group she's part of. And if I'm really cheeky, I could say, okay, I'm going to see if I can join one of her groups. Because once she's a group member, you can always message them. So someone who you're not connected to in any way, if they're a member of the group that you're a member of, you can always get in touch with them. So that's why it's valuable being part of a group. Okay, someone said, people I don't know connect with me. They're on my field, so I add them back, but then they don't make any contact. Yeah, that happens. So it's totally up to you whether or not you want to add them. They don't make any contact, bad use of LinkedIn, but do think, well, maybe they know somebody who's working in the company that I want to know. So I think it's legitimate to add people who are in your field who you don't know, who aren't doing anything, because they could still be useful for you, because they might be able to introduce you to somebody if you request it, or they might know somebody that you know. So they are broadening your network in the area that you want to get into, but they're just not using LinkedIn as effectively as they could. Another way that you can find people to connect to, as well as the advanced people function, is through alumni. So often it's alumni of your university who are going to really have the goodwill to want to help out current students. So if you go onto that alumni tab, you can then choose which university. So I could change this. My 2 universities there is picking up University of Warwick. I could change that if I wanted to, or I could search as a different university that I haven't been at. Now, at this point, I might say, okay, what do people up to now do who went to my university, who live in, I want to emigrate to China. So they live in China. Okay. Now, they live in China and I'm interested in business development. So I'm going to click business development. And then let's say I studied business management and administration. I want to find people who were at my university, studied my course, are in my area in the country I want to get into, because that's lots and lots of touch points where I've got something similar to them. So they're more likely to have a loyalty and allegiance to me, and more likely to want to actually help me out if I get in touch with them. Okay, so if I scroll down, these are the people, 13 people who were at Queen Mary, who studied business management, who are working the area that I want to work in and are in China. Now, if I wanted to emigrate to China, these are people who are going to be really helpful for me to give me information, introduce me to other people, give me top tips and advice. So these are people that I might then want to get in touch with. I can hit this and I can connect with them. At this point, you might want to hit connect, say, okay, we're a classmate there. Now, this is the point at which you would say, you'd recognize that you don't know them, and you'd explain that you were you're looking to emigrate to China, that you would really value a conversation with them, that these are all the things you have in common, and you'd sign it off. So you can really personalize that message there. Okay, so we're just coming to the end of our time here. And so I want to show you one other thing because it's really important as you job search, and that is the jobs function. Okay, so based on my profile, LinkedIn tells me all the things that I might be interested in. So it populates my job section, so it allows me to see what jobs I might want to apply for. And that will look at it'll look at your keywords, it'll look at your current and your past experience, and your current education if you're a student. So already it's going to be telling you some possible stuff. However, I could also search by job title, keyword, or company name. So does someone want to just type into their questions box? I'll take the first answer, a keyword they'd like me to search on. So an area that you are wanting to work in. Diplomacy, great, thank you very much. Let's see, this is an experiment. Let's see how LinkedIn does on this. Diplomacy, okay. So there are 347 results for diplomacy. Now, interestingly, I think what LinkedIn is doing is it's showing us things which has got probably the word diplomacy in the job description. So let me go for diplomat. Okay. So again, you've got some things here which are coming up which probably got diplomat in the skills, and then so it might be saying you need to be a diplomat, and then you've got some things like here US Embassy, which are actually sort of around the diplomatic. So hopefully this gives you have to play around with LinkedIn. So it's some of this is maybe about finding the best keywords. So so things which are used as adjectives will come up in job descriptions. So for the person who is interested in diplomacy, maybe think about, okay, what other words could I search for by keyword? Play around with it, have a go. Art conservation, this is pretty niche. Conversation? Conservation, conservation. Let's see what comes up here. Okay, 18 results for arts conservation. Brilliant. So you can see here that some of these are a little bit more specific. Now, if we go for art, and then I'm going to say, okay, I'm actually interested in working in Switzerland. Let's see what happens. All right, so we've got 199 results for jobs in Switzerland, located in or near Switzerland. And I can say here, I could put in a postcode if I wanted to. I could say, okay, I'm actually going to be moving to Basel. So I'm looking for jobs in which related to companies which have art somewhere, related to art in some way, and they're in Basel. So it's allowing me to search. Now you can see you can go down job function, industry, and experience level. So that's how you can really filter. You can use a keyword to search, and you can have your location there. There's also there's another website which is specifically for students and graduates. So if we go into linkedin.com/student/jobs. Oh, okay. So the URL is linkedin.com/students/jobs. linkedin.com/students/jobs, and that's coming to you now in your pane box. So here, this is a website specifically for students looking for graduate level jobs. So here you can click see all the student jobs. So it just means that there are things, it's exactly the same, but it's really going to focus in on the jobs which are suitable for your level. So it just makes it much easier for you to search. Okay, we have precisely 3 minutes left to the end of our session. So I have whizzed through a ton of things. As I said, do go on to Google And if you just put in how to build a profile LinkedIn or how to search for jobs LinkedIn, LinkedIn themselves have produced loads and loads of resources, which are typically videos, so you can watch what they're doing, and so you can find out loads of stuff. So you can follow up from today. Now, this is your chance in the last couple of minutes to ask any outstanding questions. So any questions that you've got, I'll do what I can to answer them in the time. Type them into your questions box now. So I'll just wait a moment and see if anything comes up. So any questions? Just the last minute. Okay. Yeah, great question about the LinkedIn Premium. I think try and maximize what you can do with LinkedIn before you get the Premium, because a lot of the things that you can do with Premium, you can actually do with general LinkedIn, and Premium won't necessarily add lots of value unless you are really using it in depth every day a lot. What it can do quickly is allow you to connect with anyone, but then if you join groups, then you can connect with all the members in the groups anyway. And if you're trying to actually build a relationship rather than just hit connect, then you're not going to be needing to make hundreds and hundreds of connections all at once. So I think there's a lot of things that Premium can do for you which you can do anyway. Does the number of connections affect the way a company or other LinkedIn members view you or see you? I think they if someone's got hardly any connections, you probably think they're not an active user. So you want to have a reasonable number of connections to suggest that you're a serious user. But apart from that, really the value of connections is that you can, for the people that you know already, you can share useful information. It's a way of contacting them. You can keep up to date with what they're doing because people change their jobs all the time, and it's a way that you can message them when their old job email has run out, for example. But also, obviously, your connections will know people. So the number of connections you have will just mean that you've got a broader pool of people that you could access to potentially have a conversation with about a job area that you want to go into. For looking for internships if you've got no experience or prior jobs. Yeah, so I think this is the same with anything. You will be, the more experience you have, the more that someone is going to want to hire you. And actually, the way that you use LinkedIn is no different from the way that you use a CV, in the sense that someone will look at your profile and they will look at what you can bring. So I'd say if you don't have experience, number one, go and see your career service and talk to them about how you can build some experience. Think about volunteering, think about extracurricular stuff available at university. So go and have a chat with someone about how you can actually build some experience. And then, like I was saying earlier, really maximize on your education. So often if you haven't got lots of work experience, you might still be able to talk about a lot of the projects, practical projects and research that you've done during your education. So make sure you use all of those boxes that I showed you on the profile where you can put your test scores and your projects and your societies, but definitely talk to someone about how you can go and build up that experience. Okay, we've come to the end of our time. Thank you very much for your participation and all of your questions. We're just going to send you the link for our International Futures website again. And that way you can go and have a look on it. I really recommend that you do follow us on our blog. There's loads of useful stuff that we post on there a number of times a month. We've also got sections on International Futures about how you find work in the UK, how you find work overseas, and we've got a Facebook page which links off our website. So do have a look at that link now, like us on Facebook, follow us on our blog and use our website. Okay. Thanks for your questions. Hope it was useful, and all the best for your job search.